concerned. The third and very interesting finding is that many SMEs are dependent on single or limited suppliers. Mind you, I'll repeat this again. Many SMEs are dependent on single or limited suppliers, not customers, suppliers. So the health of the suppliers also impact the health and growth of the SME concerned. So these are the three major findings which they have come out with. And they've also listed out 15 top regulatory interventions which have happened in the last 20-25 days across the world. Labor has three components. Deferral schemes, which means interest deferral, loan principal repayment deferral, EMI deferral, tax payment deferral. All of these deferrals, they were classified into 5 separate categories. So 3 for labor policies, 5 for deferral, 3 for financial intervention as far as governments are concerned. So there are 3 components as far as financial intervention are concerned. These may be subsidies, grants, and direct investment, etc. So there are 3 components as far as financial investments are concerned, and which means innovation, focus on training, new marketing, creation of new markets, etc. So these 15 parameters which OECD has come out with, and these are the max. They've charted out that what governments across the world have done is they have intervened in this environment over the last 25 days in these 15 sectors, 15 types of interventions. India, unfortunately, has direct or indirectly 4 or 5 interventions only. The maximum was China with 10 interventions out of the 15, France with 8 intervention, Israel with 8 intervention. India may be in the period, in the process of having more interventions. We will have to wait and see. So this is what's happening as far as global findings are concerned. 15 interventions identified. India currently has catered to 4 interventions, which means social security, which is provident fund intervention, debt intervention, direct lending intervention through RBI's yesterday's announcements, and tax deferral and tax policy changes. These are the 4 interventions which we have as a nation currently done in the last 20 days. Lot more to do, but this is where we stand. So now this is as far as the overall picture is concerned. Now getting specifically into what individual MSMEs have as a challenge. Over the last 20-25 days, we've spent a lot of time with a lot of accountants, bankers, investment advisors on understanding what's happening in the MSME sector specifically. So the top 10 things which we have come up with as to do for preparedness. So we are all going through tough times. Times can get worse initially, maybe settle down in the future. But these are the 10 things which we have come up with as action items as far as every MSME is concerned. So let me scroll down the slide. Yeah. So first thing which sounds very basic, very natural, and something which we take for granted is accounting and reporting. MSMEs, we have about 69-70 lakhs registered MSMEs. Most of them are micro enterprises, 1-person companies, 1-person LLPs, 1-person partnerships or proprietorships, spending very, very limited time as far as accounting is concerned, as far as data number crunching is concerned. Things like, do I have my bank statements in order? Simple things. Do I have all my bank statements in order? Have I looked through my CIBIL credit rating? Have I subscribed to my CIBIL credit rating? Have I looked at it? Have I seen which are the banks where I have a problem with? Which are the credit cards where I have a problem with? Including things like, have I reconciled withholding tax credit which is available to me, which means TDS in my favor. Not TDS which I have done to others, but TDS which others have done on me. Have I reconciled it with last year's tax return? Am I in a position to reconcile it with current year's tax return? Have I filed all my returns? Am I able to reconcile my GST returns to my financial statements? Do I have a ready trial balance and accounts for 31st March? Tomorrow, if the bank asks me for a financial statements for 31st March, do I have it ready? Because once this lockdown is going to be over, you are going to have a very tough and maybe a detailed discussion with your bank. Sometimes tough, sometimes in your favor if numbers are in order. Mind you, we are living through times when business has halted for almost 20-25 days in the year ended 31st March 2019, rather 2020. So we have almost 1 month of inactivity as far as revenue is concerned, but activity as far as expenses are concerned. We are paying our bills, We are paying rent, we are paying employees, but we have no revenue corresponding to it. So what does that do to my income and expenditure statement? ನಾವು ಒಂದು ಸಣ್ಣ ಉದ್ಯಮಿ ಆಗಿರ್ಬೋದು, ನಾವು ಒಂದು ದೊಡ್ಡ ಕಾರ್ಖಾನೆನೂ ಇಟ್ಕೊಂಡಿರ್ಬೋದು. ಆದ್ರೆ ಅವರ್ ವಾಟ್ ನಮ್ಮ ಫೈನಾನ್ಷಿಯಲ್ ಸ್ಟೇಟ್ಮೆಂಟ್ಸ್ ಏನಾಗಿದೆ 31st ಮಾರ್ಚ್ಗೆ, ಈ ಸಮಯ ಇದೆ, ಕಳೆದ ಒಂದು 15 ದಿವಸ ಆಗಿದೆ ಇವಾಗ ಮಾರ್ಚ್ ಆದ್ಮೇಲೆ. Have we spent time in putting our finances in a piece of paper? Even if I'm a small enterprise, have I put my numbers down in a sheet of paper? If you have not done it, best to do it now. Then one more very interesting aspect which came out is these COVID period expenses. This, which means from the date of starting down of the lockdown to the day it ends, as soon as possible, I'm hoping. So this period expenses, what do we do with them? Should we track them specifically? Because this is a unnatural expenditure which is coming into our P&L. ನಮಗೆ ಈ ಖರ್ಚು ಸಾಧಾರಣ ಖರ್ಚಲ್ಲ ಇದು. there is no revenue corresponding to it, but there is expenses which we are incurring even during the COVID period. Chances are that we may get certain tax benefits for this COVID period expenses, which means we may get double deduction for our income tax purposes, which means we may get subsidies, which means we may get grants, because many countries have done this. Many countries have done direct intervention in COVID period expenses only. So as far as we are concerned, as small and medium enterprises, we can rest assured if somebody is going to get a benefit. Sorry. Okay. If somebody is going to get a benefit, we will be the first to get these benefits. So my request is track these COVID period expenses specifically. Second, regulatory filings. Now we have time because internet is on, GST filings are possible, tax returns are possible, status of our tax compliance is possible. Look at all of this personally. Do not rely on, I'm an accountant by practice, but I still tell you, do not rely on anybody else. Do it yourself. As far as income tax is concerned, as far as GST is concerned, look into your website, use your user ID and password yourself, and find out where for your action is a column, for example, in the income tax website. These are notices which are outstanding against your name. These are demands which are outstanding against your name. These are issues which you need to start with the income tax department. First to do as far as preparedness is concerned is accounting, reporting, compliance. So I'll move on to the next one, but again, restate the obvious. Check what are your investments, where do they stand? Write it down in a piece of paper. Check what are your liabilities which are maturing fast. Term loan, cash credit, inventory positions, receivable positions, because they impact your drawing power if you are a borrower from a bank. Even if I'm a small enterprise, who are the people who owe me money? Make this list, keep them ready. Get your family involved, but do it yourself, and don't depend on others to do this. All of these accounting and reporting items, my request is, please do this yourself and don't rely on third parties to help you with this. You may revalidate them, you may check with them, you may get it audited, you may get it confirmed subsequently. But today you have a good 8-10 days before we get back to normal. In these 8-10 days, do this accounting and reporting work yourself and get this in place. The next finding which we have is on cash flow. Is cash flow becoming the major decision maker in the future for the next 1 year at least? For example, do I have existing customers? Those existing customers have interacted with me for 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. I know them. They know me. Are they the go-to people, or should I look for new customers with whom I don't have any cash flow transactions in the past? I don't have any benchmarks as far as cash flow is concerned. Major decision making which will happen based on our assessment is, do I get new customers or should I stick to the existing customers? The reverse side of it, one very important aspect is what we found out from the OECD report also is, are we reliant on single 1, 2, 3, 5 suppliers? If we are reliant on 1, 2, 3, 5 suppliers, the health of the supplier implies directly responsible for your health. So I'm not saying customers, I'm saying suppliers. If you have single source, double source, triple source, quadruple source of suppliers, fine. If you have a single source of supplier, then you need to start worrying about the health of that supplier to you. So this happens many times in, for example, even in a small photocopying shop, you may have one supplier as far as paper is concerned. So I can keep using these examples, but look at who your customer base is. As far as possible, make sure that you work with existing customers. New customers, go on cash, Try and see if you can avoid credit. As far as the next 6-8 months is concerned, this is a critical period. One bad business decision, one bad debt, one troubled as a receivable may put you in jeopardy. So that dependence is very high in the next 6-8 months. There are quite a few compliance aspects also. We will talk through them, but one important compliance aspect here is, as MSMEs, we are ready to register ourselves with our MSME registration into the threads. If you have not done MSME registration, now is a good time to do it. See the sector, get yourself registered. It's a simple 1.5-page form, and that form you can do it yourself. It's basically KYC and business related information. Everybody can do it. You don't need an accountant, you don't need a chartered accountant, you don't need a banker. You can do it yourself. Go onto the MSME website and you can do it yourself. Once you have done that, there is a organization called TREDS. TREDS is for receivable management and factoring, owned by SIDBI and National Stock Exchange. All public sector debt, all transactions with public sector where we are supplying to public sector, we are supplying to governments, we are supplying to major customers, all of them can be discounted and factored onto TREDS website. For example, I have supplied 100 rupees to, let's say, ONGC. ONGC owes me 100 rupees. I can go on to the TREDS website and discount my bill immediately. So, and you get your money, cash flow immediately. So have a look at TREDS website, see whether you want to register them. So you want to get, you want to not rely on the credit period of these public sector companies. You don't want to rely on the credit period of the government. You have a choice to go ahead and factor it or discount it. Look at the TREDS website, interesting. See if you want to register. The new concept which all of us as individual proprietors, for example, I'm also a proprietor. The new concept which I'm learning personally is free cash flow. What is the free cash flow available to my business today? That decides all, that is determinant of all the decision making which I think I will be making for the next 6 months. Free cash flow is becoming important. Free cash flow, deposits without lien, deposit, cash balances in bank, cash balances at home. That is it. There is no free cash flow means anything which is free from any obligation. Anything which is not put aside. For example, I have real estate. Real estate is not free cash flow because I'm not able to sell it immediately. The benchmark for the next 6-8 months, it appears, will be free cash flow. Globally, this is what SMEs are listing themselves towards, and we should be also aware that free cash flow will be the main decision maker for the next 6-8 months. No credit is likely to come your way easily. No credit, you are likely to give to others easily. So free cash flow concept, we should imbibe, understand, and assimilate as far as our business for the next 6-8 months is concerned. Now, the next aspect is a slightly tricky one, challenging one, but many of us are dependent on commercial banking or banks, public sector banks, private sector banks, NBFCs for credit. Our balance sheets as far as 31st March 2020 may not reflect the best position like we have done in the past, like March 19, March 18, we've done well. But March 20, we may not be able to report a balance sheet which satisfies rating. We may not be able to report a balance sheet which satisfies another thing called drawing power. For example, our receivables may be doubtful. Our inventory, which have stagnated for a period of 35, 40 days, may also take some beating as far as recoverability is concerned. So inventories may not be reflecting at cost of acquisition. It may be depleted or depreciated or impaired. The receivables which we have, some of them may be good, some of them may be not so good. So that analysis is vital in the next few days because you will be having a discussion with your bankers at some point in time. Now, there are protective mechanisms which we need to understand. One is if we are dealing with the public sector banks, we may be in a little better position because they will understand the situation. They have an oversight mechanism via the government, via the RBI to ensure that you are not unduly strained for your banking dealings. Sometimes, and based on past experience, sometimes NBFCs may not have the same leeway. NBFCs themselves may be troubled. We have had 1 or 2 troubled NBFCs in the last few months who are completely unwilling to listen to anything as far as deferment is concerned, as far as moratoriums are concerned, as far as coercive action is concerned. Coercive action, by which I mean using the collateral or taking charge of the collateral, having possession of the collateral, symbolic or otherwise. These are tough situations which may arise, but be mindful that you have rights. And my request to people who are in, in a challenging situation as far as financing is concerned, especially if you're dealing with NBFCs, there have been situations in the past where they approach the courts for, for lack of another thing, as this is reality which we should get used to. There are warrants issued by magistrate courts. Please ensure that you have caveats filed if you have any suspicion or apprehension that these NBFCs may be aggressive towards your loan. So collateral, situation of your collateral, readiness for coercive action. You have rights. They cannot classify you as an NPA. They have to talk to you. They have to have a discussion with you. They have to try and pass on the moratorium which is available to them indirectly through the banking sector. All these discussions you should be ready to have with your NBFC friends. Public sector banks and private sector banks, you may be in a little better position. Now, again, coming back to last 1 or 2 points, the deferment, obviously, we all know by now, multiple communications have happened through TV and media. Deferment is only for the principal component of it. Interest still ticks. Interest still is in your obligation. So be mindful of what is accumulating as far as deferment of EMI payments are concerned, as far as deferment of working capital obligations are concerned. Check, double check, recheck your drawing power, which is based on your balance sheet position. If there are margin calls, what do you do with them? How do you prioritize margin calls? All of these are discussions which you need to first have homework ready and then discuss with your auditors or accountants. So they will rely on your information. You have to be now clear as to what are the collaterals you have given to the banking system and what are the obligations which you have vis-a-vis the banking system. How is your balance sheet looking? How is the status of the collateral looking? All of this are something which now is your obligation to provide to the accountant for him to give proper or adequate answers for you. So this is something which we need to spend a lot of time on. Look at agreements with banks, look at the conditions which you have signed for, look at the commitments we have made, see our balance sheet position, see our collateral positions. No choice in the next 15-20 days. We need to spend time on looking at how our banking obligations are looking. Let it be a small trade finance or hand loan. The same principle applies to NBFC loans. Same principle applies to vehicle loans. Same principle applies to equipment finance. So all of them, same principle applies. We need to hunt our documents which are signed with these banks or institutions and keep our finances in order. The next is for slightly larger MSMEs, companies with track record, companies which have ability to grow, companies which now are looking for finance. Obviously, there are 2 types of finance: debt capital, which in the current situation, credit may be a little difficult to come through unless there's a significant intervention by the RBI. They're doing it in phases. I'm sure it will happen at some point. But till such time, having alternate capital, which is equity, understand what are the conditions we are signing for as far as equity transactions are concerned. If you're looking for venture capital investments or private equity investments or third-party individual investments in your company, understand what you're getting into. These condition precedents may turn a simple equity agreement into a debt agreement. Mind you, every investor today wants to be in the position as far as investments in a private limited company or a LLP is concerned. They want to be in a position of a financial creditor. They don't want to be as much as possible in the risk-taking position as far as or a equity investor is concerned. So the same equity share subscription agreement may end up being a financial creditor debt agreement. Ensure that you're aware of these things. Understand that these are the powers of a financial creditor as far as the provisions of insolvency and bankruptcy code applicable to private limited companies and LLPs today, partnerships and proprietorships in the future, not today, in the future. The insolvency and bankruptcy code may apply to you for any monies you're taken from a financial creditor. They may force you into under the insolvency and bankruptcy code into a resolution process, which you may want to avoid if you go through an equity form of investment, which is a risk taking, and no IBC situation. So understand that what is debt and what is equity. These are easily available on the internet. You can spend some time understanding that. Before you take an investment from somebody, ensure that you have the contracts in order. It is what you want, the risk you are able to take, and not something which is extraneous to your decision making. Then all of this has been discussed in the past in Laghu Udyog Bharati meetings also, I'm told, as far as various schemes of the government which have come through. Vivad se Vishwas for resolving your prior tax disputes, companies fast track process, private limited companies which are not filed returns for many years, no additional fees, no extra charges, just file your returns and you are compliant. Become serious in the future, because your directorial position or any changes to your directorial position, any non-compliance which makes you ineligible director for other companies may impact your businesses as a whole and your credit rating also to a certain extent. If you are a disqualified director, banks will find it difficult to lend to the company in which a disqualified director is present. And you may taint your entire organization by your non-compliance. Use this scheme, beautiful scheme, no additional fees, simple. All historical returns can be filed under the Indian Companies Act for private limited companies. Some of us are working under a LLP model. Same scheme, statement of solvency, annual accounts, changes in a LLP agreement, all of this under a new LLP modified settlement scheme 2020. File it, pay some minimum fees, no additional fees, no penalties. First time ever, no additional fees, no penalties. File your returns and be done. There may be reasons why you need to file revised returns for March 19, or if you're not filed March 19 returns, belated returns can be filed by June 2020. Avail this opportunity to file your tax returns if you're not filed them. If you have filed them, if there are some tedious refunds which are due to you, which are not considered in the previous return, some mistakes, errors which have happened in the income tax returns for March 19, you want to sort them out. Good opportunity, relook at it. Ensure that your TDS and credits availed, income relating to the TDS in the same year. File your revised returns. Speak to your auditor, see if you need it. If you don't need it, fine. If you need it, do it. Then a lot of these benefits as far as investments and capital gains are concerned, we know that. So up to June 2020, we have time to make investments and avail deductions, take some positions as far as capital gains is concerned, invest, reinvest, and take those deductions. So we'll not dwell on that. Some of us are exporters, some of us are importers. Now we have a situation where the exporters will have to, if they're not receiving their monies on time, you have to file Form EXT or extension with your bankers. If you don't file it, you are under non-compliance under the Foreign Exchange Management Act. Exports are to be received within 270 days. Imports are to be paid off within 180 days. That's the law. Under Foreign Exchange Management Act, that's the law. 270 days receivable, 180 days payable outside India. All of these have to be settled. Otherwise, you need to file some forms. Speak to your auditor, find out what these forms are. Extension for export receivables beyond 270 days. If I am unable to pay my import payables, I need to go to the bank and file for trade credit extension up to 3 years. So all of this, bills, documents, evidence, you need to collate, ensure that you have them, and do the right things as far as exporters and importers are concerned. I'll just spend that minute on that, but vital. The seventh option challenge which we face generally is many of us are short insured. As far as health is concerned, as far as life is concerned, as far as employee benefits, for example, gratuity, leave encashment, all these insurances, property, assets, fire, all of these insurances, you need to have a relook. Secure policies, if you have them, find out the end dates. If not, many of us, our clients and many of the people whom we have spoken to, don't pay attention to all of these aspects. Personally, health and life, employees, benefits, gratuity, leave encashment, and to a certain extent, other health insurance schemes or government health insurance schemes, Ayushman Bharat, etc., get it done. If this is a good opportunity to ensure that you collate information vis-a-vis this, property and assets, make sure that if you don't have them, get it done. Because more and more I'm seeing that banks and other financial institutions are not taking a positive view where assets which are collateralized are not insured. So insure those assets for fire or property and get this done. The eighth point is a double-edged sword as far as insolvency and bankruptcy code is concerned. Many of us are suppliers to large organizations. We rely on their payment schedules. If they decide not to pay us on time, we are still obliged to stick to the contract terms and wait for these payments as far as because we are the supplier to these large organizations. The Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code provides you an opportunity to remind them of this payment, which is going beyond the contracted time. If they're not paid within the contracted time, you can remind them to pay under the Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code, failing which you can take them to the court for a resolution process. That power lies with you as a operating creditor or a supplier to any large company in India. There have been instances where public sectors have also been taken to resolution process under the IBC by small MSMEs. So that power lies with you. A double-edged sword, the same will apply to you as well. So if you're a private limited company and a LLP which is failed to pay your creditors or your banks or even operating creditors like suppliers, they may take you to court under the resolution process. There is discussion and talk that this should be kept on abeyance for 6-8 months till the tide over the situation as far as MSME is concerned. But as the law stands today, Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code applies to all MSMEs on the incoming side. If we are not paid our suppliers, we need to ensure that we have enough funds to pay them. Otherwise, they can give notice to us. If the notice is not adhered to, they can take us to the company law tribunal for resolution process. That also is possible as far as MSMEs operating under private limited and LLP is concerned. Similarly, we have the power to remind and send notices for receivables from large companies. So I will leave it at that, but important that you understand that this option exists, this law exists, it applies to MSMEs as much as it applies to any large corporation. Now, the other thing which we need to understand is there is a difference between relief and stimulus. So what has happened as far as government intervention is concerned in the last 20 and 25 days, as far as return filings are concerned, deferment of tax payments are concerned, deferment of EMIs are concerned, your obligations are not changed. Your obligations have been pushed forward, which means ಇವತ್ತಾಗದಿರೋದು ನಾಳೆ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರು ಪರವಾಗಿಲ್ಲ, ಒಂದೆರಡು ತಿಂಗಳಾದ್ಮೇಲೆ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರು ಪರವಾಗಿಲ್ಲ. So there is no relief. This is a relief which has been given for deferment of obligations which you have. There is no relief from the obligation itself. So these measures are relief which have come. What may happen and what should come in the future is stimulus, which means grants, subsidies, guarantee enhancement, eligibility enhancement as far as drawing power is concerned, for loans is concerned. These may happen and these may come as stimulus. Be mindful, be wary, be aware of what is happening. 2 or 3 sources of information. One is the SME Karnataka website also gives you a good information up to date as much as possible. Public press is concerned, that is good. Google search and put MSME as a keyword. If there is anything which is happening as MSME, you need a reminder, put MSME. But this will happen, be aware, because all these schemes give you some benefits. For example, the government is creating a fund of funds, which means government will invest in equity capital of individual MSMEs up to 15% of equity capital. They have set aside 10,000 crores for it. But today the condition which they have put is it should be a AAA rating MSME. So now AAA rating is difficult to obtain. Many of us may not be able to get a AAA rating, but at the same time, we know that if I have a AAA rating available, then first, do I have a rating available? And what does this rating get me? And if I have a better rating, I can apply to the fund of funds of the government of India under the MSME scheme. So be mindful of what's happening. Relief, public information will be very fast. It will come directly to you. Stimulus, you need to hunt for. Action is on your side. Relief is on the government side. So government has given you deferment of 3 months. Bank will say, if you don't call me and say I will pay in advance, you have automatically got the relief of deferment of EMIs. But stimulus, you need to apply. So be aware of what stimulus is and be aware that you need to apply. You need to apply for grants. You need to apply for equity investment by government or any other scheme that they bring in. You need to be aware of what's happening. The last point, before we were almost at about 40 minutes beginning. Last 1 or 2 points which I will discuss. Last point is representation. You are part of large organizations. These large organizations are able to give you a collective voice. And do we represent? I think we have no choice but to represent. One is across the world, direct policy intervention through cash infusion is happening. into SME sectors. For example, I just jotted down one or two across the globe what's happening. One is in Denmark, they have a very interesting scheme in Denmark. If my turnover for this year, March 19 to March 20, I'm using March, they use December. If March 19 to March 20 is low by 30%, 70% of that reduction of turnover will be given to me as grant. So if my turnover is 100 in the last year and I'm 70 today, the 30 delta, 70% of the 30, I'm getting it as a grant. So that's what Denmark is doing. Australian government has said blanket Australian dollar 25,000 for all SME registered SMEs. So these kind of cash direct intervention is happening. Although it's a loan, it's a zero interest, repayable, long tenure loan. Grants are possible, deferred investments are possible. Then some possible things which may happen also is collateral easing. So if I have 100 rupees of collateral, will I be eligible for 120, 150? These schemes may come up very shortly. Cooperative, some interesting things which have happened is, for example, tissue paper. 2 or 3 SME organizations have said smaller tissue paper manufacturers are unable to market themselves because they are small organizations. They don't have the ability to market. They are saying made in Canada. This tissue paper across the board, whoever is making those tissue papers are going under that made in Canada or made in XYZ tissue paper branding. You are part of a large organization. If they decide to market your tissue paper, I'm just using it as an example, or your product, all of you manufacturing tissue paper under that brand name will find a ready market. So you don't need to invest in marketing. But the minute the marketing effort is taken out of an entrepreneur, 90% of the fight is over. You are a supplier, you're a contract manufacturer, you are able to keep supplying. The last and most important point is at some point in time, you need to tell the government that insolvency in bankruptcy law may work as a double-edged sword for the MSME sector. Many MSMEs are now at very low valuations. Many MSMEs are unable to meet their suppliers' payments. They may need some time. So deferment of any new resolution applications for a 6 to 8 month period, as far as MSME is concerned, is something which we may consider as part of our representation to the government. So one or two interesting things which we are talking of today itself is valuations as far as Indian MSME sector or Indian industry as a whole are at a rock bottom. Fears and apprehensions were there whether these investments, for example, countries which are not so friendly to us may take opportunity of these investments or other investment opportunities and take over large corporates for whom we are suppliers. And once they take over large corporates for whom we are suppliers, they'll find sources of supply from their respective countries concerned, especially China. So now today the government has intervened and said foreign direct investment from China is no longer under the automatic route. It has to go through the government approval route, which means evaluation will be happening on any investments, foreign direct investment coming into India from China. So let's be prepared that these kind of low valuation situations which we are in, opportunities exist for predators, opportunities exist for other competitors, etc., to latch on to these valuation opportunities. So insolvency and bankruptcy law, deferment, collective marketing as a possibility, easing of collateral obligations, even at some point in time, some principal obligations on the loans. Today, the moratorium or deferment which is happening is on the principal amount being repaid in a subsequent date, but the interest clock is ticking. So these are things which we need to think of as a representation option to the government and see if they hear us. So that is the, so again, summarizing the top 10 items. One is spend some time on your accounting. There is no excuse. We need to do this ourselves. We need not rely on our family members, but nobody else. Do this ourselves, get ourselves prepared as far as audit process is concerned or rating process is concerned or discussion with banks are concerned. Cash flow should form the decision-making basis for decision-making. Across the globe, this is a very important understanding which is coming out. Cash flow becomes the basis for decision-making for MSMEs in the next 6-8 months and nothing else. Dependence on commercial banking, we know we are under obligations, we know we are under loan commitments, we know we are under repayment obligations. Understand what you are signed up for, discuss with the bankers for if there is any situation which warrants your to seek their help. So understand where you stand and understand what regulatory options you have. Equity, private investments, alternate capital, from hand loans to equity investments to debt investments. Understand what you're getting into, because these are times when urgent need for monies may drive us into the not so right decision making for us. Relief measures, make sure that whatever comes your way, relief or stimulus, understand relief will come under the automatic route. Stimulus will come under the, I have to take, voluntary action to ensure that I'm applying for and getting that stimulus. So make sure that we are participants to any stimulus benefits which are available to us. Exporters and importers, obligations exist. If you don't receive within time, if you don't pay within time in an international transaction, obligations exist for deferring these payments. Insurances and disaster recovery planning, all employees, for yourself and your employees, please make sure that you have insurances in place if you don't have them already. Insolvency and bankruptcy code and MSMEs, it's a double-edged sword. Please make sure that we have enough protective mechanisms or ability to understand that there are notices which are coming from suppliers. We need to know, have a mechanism to respond to them. If we are sending notices, we need to have a mechanism to follow through with that concern. Stimulus as versus relief, we did discuss. The last and most important thing, across the globe, no governments wait for representations. So you are a large organization, your organization is able to give a collective voice to the requests. So representation, I will not say unionize, it has a very leftist connotation, but nonetheless, I will say represent yourself. These are the top 10 findings which we have had in the last 20-25 days across the board internationally. This is what we have found out. We relied on OECD reports as far as semi-sectors are concerned, and this is the top 10 we have come up with. So we are about 42 minutes into the presentation. So as discussed, I will just stop here and see if there are any questions for the next 15-20 minutes or so, and some other comments from other panelists.
Thank you, sir. Before I open the floor to the participants, there are a few questions already keyed in for me. The first question, it is the initial part of your presentation. It is asked by Mr. Naveen. Can you explain about THREDS?
Okay. My request is TREDS. There is a website called THREDS. It's an initiative by the National Stock Exchange and the SIDBI, Small Industry Development Bank of India. Google it, go to their website. It has registration. Who can register? Whom does it apply to? It has simple Q&As. Have a look at their website. If you have dues from public sector, if you have dues from government, you can discount your bills or receivables under the THREDS mechanism and receive your money in advance. You don't need to wait for the credit period to be over. Obviously, there are some charges, there are some costs, there are some interest which is inbuilt into the transaction. All of them are beautifully explained in the THREDS website. For lack of time, I will say, have a look at TREDS. I'm not sure of the www. What it stands for, but THREDS is the website. Google it, you'll get it. It's very commonly available. Search result, yeah.
And Ms. Aditi Ravi is asking, sir, how to apply for credit rating?
Okay. There are two credit ratings. One is, I have as an individual, I have a CIBIL rating. So go to the CIBIL website, Google it, easily available, about 400, 450 rupees for getting your own CIBIL rating. Have a look at it. If you stand anywhere up 730 and above, you're in a good CIBIL position. It's a score of 0 to 900. Anything above 730, you're in a decent financial position. But one good thing about CIBIL is it lists down all the bank accounts you are opened in your history. It also talks about why your rating is going down, because if you not pay, you had a fight with the credit card company, not paid certain dues, 10 points minus, 20 points minus, you can fix them. The option with CIBIL is get your ratings under the CIBIL website. It will come to you by email. Detailed 8-10 page report will come to you about all your relationship with banks. If you have a problem with any of these banks, you can fix it. You can pay that 400, 500 rupees of delayed payment and get your points up in order. Then second stage is rating of your enterprise, or either a private limited company, LLP, partnership, or proprietorship. The business also can get rated by CRISIL or CARE or any of these rating agencies. SMERA and other small SMEs go to SMERA. All of these rating agencies rate your business. So two ratings, one individual CIBIL, two business credit rating. So both these ratings you should have in place. You can do this. Business rating, obviously you need to wait for the lockdown to be over. But CIBIL, you can do it yourself. You can do it now.
There's a question from Mr. Suresh. Sir, payments already stuck for more than 120 days. Now have even more stronger reason to delay for the payments. What's the legal options that can be exercised?
To recover these payments, I'm assuming. Okay. See, recovery modes quite extensive. I'm assuming all of these are domestic receivables. One, if you have supplied to a private limited company or a limited liability partnership, how do you know it? It is there in the visible in the GST registration of your customer. You will know whether it's a private limited company or LLP. Recovery modes are a lot easier. You can send them immediately the notice under Form 3 of the Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code and ask for these payments. They have to pay back within 15 days with interest, because MSMEs under the MSME law are eligible, if you are registered as MSME, eligible for penal interest. So that with interest, they have to repay it to you within 15 days. Failing which, you can just file a case in the National Company Law Tribunal. You can take them to court. Generally, a resolution process is a tough process. Many companies, large companies, avoid it. So if you send a Form 3 notice for repayment, now the payment of your dues, they respond. This applies to a private limited company and a LLP who are your customers. For others, currently we have no such mechanism for this thing. You may need to go through the normal civil litigation process or recovery process, sending a legal notice. If that doesn't respond to, taking them to court on the civil recoveries. But otherwise, if you are supplying to private limited and LLPs, you have a beautiful mechanism for recovery under the Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code. One of the credit checklists which we need to prepare from now on is, are we dealing with private limited companies and LLPs? If we are, you can be a little liberal with your credit to them. Otherwise, I again refer back to the cash flow option of doing business for the next 6-8 months. If you're not dealing with private limited and LLPs, look at cash basis of, I'm not physical cash exchanging, immediate payment, which is check or credit card or settlements, immediate settlements.
There's a macroeconomic question, sir, from Sanjana. Last 2 days ago, RBI gave 15,000 crore to MSMEs. How is it really helpful for MSME practically? Please explain in detail.
Okay, this is a good question. 2 or 3 days back on television, I had said this is not enough. For whatever reason, maybe they are going to do it staggered. How it works is 15,000 crores goes to SIDBI. SIDBI then has a pool of funds which they will wait for requests for information from commercial banks and public sector banks, which means I, as a small MSME, will apply to my bank and say, sir, I understand SIDBI as a scheme under which this 15,000 crore scheme has been listed. Please take my application there. Banks will consolidate, make a request to SIDBI, depending on your credit rating, depending on your track record, etc. These monies may come to you. This is still a full-fledged credit evaluation methodology. There is no benefit which will come directly to you. It is still applying for an existing loan enhancement or a new loan application as far as you as MSME is concerned. Mind you, all of this is available generally for MSMEs only. Register yourself as MSMEs if you want to avail of these benefits. But this 15,000 crore out of a general pool of 1 lakh crore which was announced yesterday by the RBI, 25,000 crore goes to NBFC sector, 15,000 goes to MSME and SIDBI via the SIDBI mechanism. This will not come to you directly. This will come to you through a loan application process as you would have done in the past. But today, specific funds have been allocated of 15,000 crores, which was otherwise not really available to SIDBI. SIDBI did not have these funds. NABARD did not have these funds. These funds are now specifically made available. So they have an obligation to pass it on to the applicant eligible MSME on a first in first out basis. So if you are eligible, my advice is if you anticipate your business is going to be good, if you anticipate that you need these monies, you see the recoveries ASAP, apply for it immediately because it may happen on a first in first out basis. Don't wait for banks to advise you.
Mr. Ashok Kumar has a question, sir. We started our company 2 years ago. We have not obtained any loans. It is owned by woman entrepreneur. Turnover is 2.3 crores. What benefit we can get from KSFC or benefit part of MSME scheme? Okay.
Benefits under the MSME scheme generally are towards capital subsidy, If I have invested in heavy equipment in my premises, I can apply for capital subsidy through the banking process. Companies have got 5 to 15 lakhs. 15 lakhs is the maximum availability for capital subsidy for an investment of 1 crore which maximum. So I can apply for capital subsidy, which is 5 lakhs, 10 lakhs, depending on what you have invested in major plant and machinery. They may give you some, but you have to go through the banking process. Banks have an evaluation mechanism, and they go up to the MSMEs, committees, and these committees may recommend you, and DC will usually recommend your case. And if you may get anything between 5 to 15 lakhs as far as your capital investment is concerned. If you have not taken any loans, don't plan to take any loans, then obviously this CGT, MSE, or any credit guarantee mechanisms, etc., will not be applicable to you. So MSME benefits are generally towards lending and capital subsidy. There are soft benefits. For example, you are a supplier to major corporations. They have to pay you within 45 days, pending which they have to pay a penal interest rate of 18% for delayed payments. MSMEs generally have a reservation as far as supplies to public sector companies are concerned, central government companies are concerned. Look at these 20% MSME reservation schemes. You may see that a lot of public sector companies are not able to meet that 20% quotas because they don't have eligible and good track record MSMEs. You may be one of those MSMEs. You may supply to the public sector and also use TREDS mechanism to get immediate payment. TREDS mechanism, which we did talk about, to get immediate payments. So even though you are not intending to borrow, you may have some softer benefits of MSME scheme. Have a look at the MSME website. I would still recommend capital subsidy, supply to public sector under the reservation mechanism, or see if you have any payments which are outstanding. You may use your MSME registration for coercing early payments or with interest.
Okay. There is a question from an agency, Ashwin Advertising Agency. Sir, service sector or trading community, what are the benefits we get for senior citizen entrepreneurs from government or banks with turnover of over 2 crores?
Okay, very good question. The services sector and the trading sector, which means are the across the world, they are directly impacted. For example, even today we received a statement that this state, the top 4 impacted sectors include transport, tourism, fashion, and agro-processing. Transport, tourism, fashion, agro-processing. 80% in agro-processing to 99% in transport have been impacted in the by this situation. For trading companies with a good turnover owned by senior citizens, I'm not able to offhand think of any specific benefits for senior citizens. Very interesting question, challenges me. It should challenge the government as well. So for senior citizens, we don't unfortunately have any direct benefits under any schemes which I can think of, but I will note your name and number down, and I will make sure that I respond to you in person.
There's a question from Mr. Patil Arun Kumar, sir. Can you explain me again about the expenses made during COVID period? Will there be some support on this from government?
Excellent. This is a question which is important. There may not be, but based on what other countries have done, during this 40-day period where there's a lockdown, government has cast an obligation on the citizen concerned or the businessman concerned to pay salaries without any deductions. Government has intervened to the extent Provident Fund is there for small employers below 100. They are paying the PF component of it, but salary component I have to pay out of my own pocket. I have to pay rent. There are also rent is obligation which is cast upon me, and I have to pay them. I may ask for a deferment for 2-3 months if I am unable to pay during this 40-day lockdown situation. But this rent is an expense which I'm incurring. Other expenditure like telephone, electricity, etc., which are standard costs which are going in during this 40-day period. My request to all of you is to identify this cost specifically, keep the bills individually, because from past experience, I can see that many countries have done it. India has still not done it. It is one of the important 15 aspects which OECD has listed down, that is expenses which government is forcing the citizen or the entrepreneur to take. Some benefit should come. Logically, it should come. If it doesn't come, don't blame me. But if it comes, logic from past experience, it should come. So this 40-day period, map it, keep the bills ready, keep the expenses vouchers ready, keep the payment details ready, and account for it separately. If all of us start accounting for COVID expenses separately, government will be forced, and through your organizations, you send them that this is the 40-day expense period of my organization participants, then they'll be forced to take some decision on this. So my request is mark these expenses during this 40-day, specifically identify them, and with bills and evidence, of course.
So Mr. Patil Arun Kumar is asking, can you explain how to get the present TDS refund from IT?
Excellent question. So as a chartered accountant, this is what we have been doing for the last 22 years. So, and I still don't have a proper answer to that. Three things. One, tax deduction and source means I have earned income from somebody else. He is paying me the money. Some component of it is deducted. First principle is the mechanism as we have today is the financial year in which the income is recognized. TDS can be claimed in the respective financial year. For example, if I have a sale or a consulting expense as a chartered accountant to a client for March 2020, the client will pay me maybe in April 2020, doesn't matter, but he will deduct tax in March 2020 year end. So whatever I do, I have to claim, show the income in March 2020, claim the TDS in March 2020. Many times what happens, TDS I claim in April 2020, which means 21 financial year. There is a mismatch. No government office or no income tax department will give you a refund if you have mismatched it. So there is a specific provision under 154 of the Income Tax Act, 154(14), where the law has given you benefit of saying up to 4 years from the end of the financial year, you can analyze all these TDS certificates, correlate them where the income went in which financial year, and make a claim directly with the income tax department. Option one, like I told you, file a belated return or a revised return. Belated return if you're not filed a return, or revised return before June 2020. They're giving you time for June 2020 for March 19 TDS claims. Claim it. Second, under 154(14), you can make a simple cover letter saying that these are the TDS certificates for which I have not got credit. These relates to incomes which I have offered to tax in 19, 18, 17, 16, whichever 4 years prior are concerned, and claim them. So TDS claim, it can be done. Use your chartered accountants, good offices, or if it is simple, if it is small amounts, you can do it yourself. Go file a revised return for claiming TDS which have been missed out, or under 154(14), apply and get your TDS refunds. So don't lose out on TDS. TDS is cash. It is your cash. You are eligible for it. Don't lose out on this for lack of reconciliation or lethargy in reconciliation.
Mr. Mohan TP is asking, sir, our bank allows below 90 days receivables for calculating drawing power. Can we ask bank to increase it to 120 days?
Exactly. So that is a dilemma which we are all faced with today. Have a look at what I kept saying again and again. Your drawing power is directly dependent on your receivables and your inventory. Relook at it, analyze it for what Mohanji is saying, that beyond 90 days, no lender will be confident of or assured that this receivable will come. If it has not come in 90 days, it is as good as difficult to come unless you have a customer which is a very, very large organization whose credit rating stands apart. But generally, 45 days is the maximum period for payment to a MSME under law, beyond which interest clock starts ticking under MSME law. So very difficult to ask a banker to consider a 90 to 120 day period extension. But under the current circumstances, there is no regulatory provision. There is no banking regulations at the moment. But under the current circumstances, this may be extended because unless we make a collective representation and ask the government for it, this is very difficult to expect a banker to give drawing power credit for more than 90-day receivable. It is as good as if a doubtful receivable.
Mr. Adesh Burji is asking, sir, when we opt for a 3-month moratorium of EMI, we will have a 3-month built-up interest. Can we request the banks to add that to our principal amount?
Okay. Adding to the principal amount of interest component is a restructuring of a debt. So that is something between you and your banks. They may not do it, but these conversion into equity for troubled assets, reclass of interest into principal, all these are restructuring which you and your bankers have to personally decide and determine based on your rating and transaction history with bank. not there's no regulations for this, but you and your bankers have to sit down and find a solution for this. But interest clock, like I keep saying, unfortunately for us, moratorium, there is no moratorium, there is a deferment. There's a difference between moratorium and deferment. And unfortunately, the way this 3-month benefit of EMI is a pure deferment. It is not a moratorium, which means the interest clock is still ticking. So you and your bank, based on your past history, your credit rating, may have to restructure the loan. So it's a restructuring situation rather than a benefit which you can ask from the bank under the current regulations.
There is a micro question, sir, from Trishank. We have a lot of dues from government departments like animal husbandry. How to collect them?
Tough question, but let me see if I can answer them. One, as far as government of Karnataka is concerned, they have been very lethargic in registering their organizations with TREDS. If they had registered themselves with TREDS, we as suppliers to government of Karnataka would have had a situation where we could immediately discount our bills. Second, see if these suppliers are legal entities, for which I mean, if you have supplied, for example, to Karnataka State, let's say MSIL or KSTDC or even soaps and detergents, all of these are limited companies, mind you. Very large public sector companies have also been given notice, and if they don't pay, they have been taken to the insolvency and bankruptcy court for the resolution process. Even public sector and state government enterprises are not immune from insolvency and bankruptcy court. If they're not paid you can take them to resolution process. Otherwise, departments of the government are unfortunately not covered. Departments of the government are unfortunately not under the TREDS mechanism, something which we collectively have to take to the state and central governments to ensure that the TREDS mechanism works faster so that MSME suppliers are assured of their listing. But I would still request you to try one more option. Under the MSME law, you can send them a notice that law requires me to pay, get paid within 45 days. Otherwise, interest at 18% start taking. See what happens, see how they respond to your notices. If I were you, I would do that, be it government or be it private sector. My money is my money. If I don't get it, I react adversely.
Rotarian Kumar is asking, sir, payment pending for more than 2 years, how to get it? Can I get payment through TREDS bill discounting process?
Okay. Payment, if you're not got it for 2 years, you are in a situation where you need to act fast. Because once it goes beyond 3 years, statute of limitation applies and you can forget about the money. Check whether there's an existing dispute between which has led to this 2-year non-payment situation. If there is an existing dispute, then the insolvency and bankruptcy code also may not be available to you. Then the only option which you have is to see if they are registered under the TREDS. For example, public sectors are. But if the person you supply to is not registered under TREDS, you may have to go through the civil litigation process. There may not be any other option for you to recover this dues, especially if they are 2 years old. And if you have to start a litigation process, you better start before 3 years of dues, because once you extend the 3-year period, statute of limitation applies. You can forget about the money.
Dr. Sundaram Murthy is asking, sir, we bought a KIADB plot. Is it eligible for subsidy?
Okay. The subsidy under the MSME scheme, unfortunately, is available for non-real estate, anything other than real estate, any equipment, any plant and machinery, etc., which you invested in. Unfortunately, today, there's no subsidy mechanism as far as land is concerned. There used to be grants, etc., in the past. But as far as I know, there is no this thing for land because it's determined to be an appreciable asset and there's no loss on investment which is anticipated, whereas depreciation and impairment applies to physical assets. So unfortunately, there is no specific benefits which I can think of at the moment.
Mr. JP Shetty is asking, so can we deal directly with SIDBI for loan?
Of course, nothing prevents you from going to SIDBI. If they're large enough, if you're large enough, if you're able to talk to them, they may request you to come through the banking, your banks as far as schemes are concerned, but nothing prevents you from walking into the SIDBI office. Nothing prevents you.
And Mr. Naveen Palyam is asking, we are a MSME. We have a loan of 80 lakhs at 10.5%. Can we get a better, lower interest rate?
3-4 things. I may not be able to answer your question offhand, but look at your rating, personal rating, and your company or organization or on business's rating. See where you stand. As far as loans beyond, whether it's a working capital or a term loan, you seem to be in a reasonable position as far as the interest rate is concerned. You may negotiate a bit 0.25 basis points or 0.25% or 0.5%. But you're in a good rating as far as I know. You're in a good position.
Mr. Narayana Prasanna K is asking, any support for startups are expected?
Okay. Startups in the last few months, or the last 20-25 days, nothing. There have been small announcements, but nothing specific which have been done. But I would still request all of you to have a look at startup programs of public sector enterprises. Most of them have startup funds which are lying unutilized. Apply under that PSC startup programs. Most you go to Google them for startup program under public sector. All of them have funds lying unutilized. Look at them as options rather than going to venture capitalists and foreigners. Look at, see if you can get some good investment from public sector, because once they invest in your company, they also become good customers of yours. So have a look at public sector, this thing. But startups at the moment, there will be some announcements, but I think they will wait for a while, because once the situation stabilizes, both state and center is involved, because startups have ministries at state and central level. So it may take a little bit of time, but there will be some missing.
And Mr. Girish Gumaste is asking, sir, because of lockdown, all our sophisticated machineries with CNC controls may not start due to rat bites, rusting, and other things, for non-operating for longer period. We have to do maintenance. Whether these expenditures will be considered. What is your opinion, sir?
Again, I will reiterate, COVID expenses is our advice to all of you, all of us, to capture specifically, because this is unprecedented. Nothing in history has happened like this. So please capture them. All these expenses also you record. For example, I am a small photocopying shop. I use that example very often. I'm a small photocopying shop. Paper has been lying there in my office for 40 days. Paper is damp. Paper is going waste. Inventory has to be written off, because I can't put that old 40-day-old paper into my machine, because my machine will spoil. Even that I will consider as COVID period expenses. Make a collective representation and see if I can get some deductions. I'm sure that some deductions will come under either under the Income Tax Act or under a grant or a subsidy mechanism for these COVID period expenses. Track them. Anything which you think can relate to this period of 40 days, please track them, identify them, evidence them, incur expenditure, which you have to for keeping your business sustained, but track them separately. Good things may happen.
Aditi Ravi, sir, we have working capital limit and term loan in a cooperative bank. Is this the right time to move out to a nationalized bank?
Okay, tough question. I'm also a director in a cooperative society, so I don't know what is the right answer to give you. Banks in general is a relationship. Banking in general is a relationship. So your relationship with the cooperative sector bank may be giving you certain benefits which you may not be getting in a public sector bank or in a private sector bank. If you are a borrower from a cooperative bank, then you have no reason to complain, because the health of the bank should not worry you, unless you want major extension in your working capital limits. So as far as cooperative banks are concerned, they also have a good mechanism under the State Apex Cooperative Bank or the NABARD mechanism, or through the RBI route. They are also well governed. Most one or two failures should not be an indicator for all banks concerned. So if you have a relationship which extends beyond years, I would suggest that you stick with them, because making a new banking relationship is like a new marriage, very difficult for the next 1 or 2 years for them to get to know you and you to get to know them. Banking is a long-term relationship.
And talking about relationships, sir, Manjunath Reddy is asking, what is the procedure for collecting penal interest for overdue payments from customers without affecting business relationships?
Excellent question. So you know business better. I can tell you the legal aspects or components of it. My request is, I have in the past advised, they have shot off my back as an auditor. Auditors can be a easy scapegoat for that. You can say that my auditor is insisting that all dues beyond X days have to be collected. If not, I will write them off. Considering my auditor's pressure, I am sending you these letters. It is beyond 45 days. MSME law requires me to charge interest or give immediate payments. Use your auditor as obviously with talking to him, use him as an excuse to send these notices. Sir, ನನಗೆ ಕಳ್ಸಕ್ಕೆ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇಲ್ಲ, ಅವ್ರು ನನ್ನ ಮೇಲೆ ಒತ್ತಾಯ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇದಾರೆ, ನಮ್ಮಲ್ಲಿ ಒತ್ತಡ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇದಾರೆ, ಆ ಒತ್ತಡಕ್ಕೋಸ್ಕರ ನಾನು ಬಗ್ಗಿ ಈ ನೋಟಿಸ್ಗಳನ್ನ ಕಳಿಸ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀನಿ. ಸೊ ಏನು ಅಪಾರ್ಥ ಮಾಡ್ಕೋಬೇಡಿ ಸರ್ ಅಂತ ನೋಟಿಸ್ ಒಂದ್ಸತಿ ಕೈಗೆ ಬಂದ್ಮೇಲೆ he will react very differently. That much I can assure you. He will react very differently. If without a notice, he is your friend. With a notice, he is your friend, continues to be a friend, but he will pay you and be a better friend.
Mr. Naveen is asking, sir, we are a 25-year-old company. Can we start a new division and avail startup benefit?
Okay, be very careful. Startup benefits, from what I have seen, be it under the Income Tax Act, be it under the startup policy, they are eligible only for new organizations, a new LLP, a new private limited company. It is generally not available for restructuring an existing business, creating a new division. Most of them, even under the old STPI law or the export-oriented unit law, where tax benefits were there, benefits are generally not available for an existing business restructuring to create a startup division. They are always available to a brand new private limited or a brand new LLP generally.
Same add-on question, sir. We are a 3-year-old company. Can we register under startups?
Oh, the 3-year-old company registering under startups may be a little difficult because you have a significant track record. But my suggestion is have a look at the startup policy of the Government of India. You can Google it. You'll get into the website. Maybe a little difficult if you're a 3-year-old organization.
Okay. The floor is open now for questions. Please go ahead and ask the questions. Participants, please go ahead and ask the questions.
Can I ask a question, sir?
Please go ahead.
Yeah, see, as per MSME, this thing 45 days is the payment which we can offer maximum credit for, correct?
Correct, sir.
Now, but most often, many clients, including various big clients, refuse to accept that, Though we insist on 45 days, they say if you want the order, you should accept for 60 or 90 days. Now, then that's even if you give them a registered MSME certificate, they don't accept it, They say if you want the order, you have to accept for 60 or 90 days.
Okay.
So it's kind of a paradox, we are, it's a.
No, I understand. I'm seeing a situation which is common because these are large buyers and large buyers have ability to coerce payment terms onto smaller this thing. My request is if these are significantly, if they're talking to you in terms of 60 days, 90 days, they are significantly large organizations, find out if they are registered under TREADS mechanism because it doesn't cost them much to go under the TREADS mechanism. If they're large companies, they're already there. If they're not there, find out if they're there. That may give you immediate cash flows because 45 days, 60 days, 90 days in these times is a tough, situation to be in. Because you are out of pocket as far as production is concerned, you're out of pocket as far as your wages and direct expenses are concerned. So you may need to look at this as a strategy for your business going forward, sir. So
yeah,
for the
next, ABB, in fact, ABB which is located in Kenya, they have sent a letter saying that not only they want 20% discount, on our existing contracts itself. And another is the company, like for example, Hitachi, they are saying they want a further extension of 90 days beyond the scheduled contractual period. How will we survive?
So again, I can tell you what the law is. I can tell you that you can coerce them into payment. I can tell you that you can force them into payment and they will pay. All these big organizations will pay if coerced, if sent a legal notice. But the problem is what happens afterwards. Will you get repeat orders? Will you get repeat business from these companies? And the answer may be no. So then it's a trade-off which you need to, see as far as you're concerned. My request is if this is a situation which is arising for major multinational companies, use this platform of Laghu Udyog Bharati to see if there is any options which you can ask NSE or SIDBI to force request these companies to go under the TREADS mechanism so that your payments are immediately available. So have a look at these TREADS. I may request that you have a specific session on TREDS and see this as because all private limited companies or Hitachi or any of these ABB or any foreign companies can also go on this. So there's nothing which prevents them. Public sectors are already on this. So if public sectors are following the discipline of factoring and bill discounting, no reason why multinationals cannot do so. Your organizations are large enough. See if you can have a specific session on TREADS and see if you can have a collective representation so that what you are saying is a common problem. I can force them into payment. They will pay, but repeat businesses may become a problem. So to avoid that, see if they can all enroll under certain factoring mechanisms.
There's a question from Mr. Harish Kumar, sir. Can we get loans for the SIDBI directly since we have not taken any loan? We are a 4-year-old company belonging to the reservation category.
Yeah. SIDBI as far as I know, you can approach them, but I'll request you to go through your existing banks, because what happens in any banking system is your track record with the bank, your KYC with the bank, your existing relationship with the bank is a basis for your further additional lending or new lending generally. So you can go to SIDBI directly, but they may refer you back to, they may ask you who your authorized dealer is, who your branch is, who your bank this thing is. Nothing prevents you from approaching SIDBI for the project. The project evaluation, etc., you can go and approach them, but they may request you to go through the banking. Even if it is under the reservation category, you're in a good position, you must go. Nothing prevents you from going. You may get a no as an answer, but nothing prevents you from going. But banks are generally the right mechanism to go, because banks understand you better than SIDBI. SIDBI is a financial institution. Your bank is a public sector bank, or a cooperative bank is a banking institution which is able to handle your credit better.
Sir, I have one question.
Yes, sir.
Please go ahead.
Sir, one of the companies which I deal is already attached with TREDS, TREDS,
Correct,
and I'm
sir.
getting regular payments from that company also. Because of this lockdown, almost 3-4 months they are not the payments are not very regular. So can I go and directly approach the TREDS and take the payment directly?
Okay. See, my understanding of this thing is you can approach them, but they are an intermediary as far as the whole process is concerned.
Okay.
So you can write to them that this is what's happening. See how they respond, but they generally, TREDS is an intermediary for the entire relationship is concerned. Your relationship with the customer is quite independent of TREDS. TREDS will just provide you a facility to immediately discount, and payments are fast and immediate. So it's a good mechanism. But in these times, any mechanism is being tested for new frontiers. So that is what I keep saying, because this is unprecedented. Nobody expected this to happen. So TREDS, my request is you approach them and ask them that this is a situation which is there. Both are backed by SIDBI and NSE. So SIDBI also has a stake in TREDS. They will be interested in understanding your problem and see if they can find a solution for you. You will not be the only person which is having this in the current environment. Keep forcing. All of us should take the initiative on ourselves to push the new decisions under new emerging business circumstances. So my request is go approach TREDS, approach SIDBI in particular. So that may find a resolution for you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
I have a question.
One last question.
I have a question.
Sir, Heli, sir.
Yeah. Sir, what are the important ratios that banks looks for before lending, and what is the benchmark for that?
Okay. See, all of these are available online, but I will tell you from past experience, if you are going into a term loan situation, which means you want equipment finance, large equipment, or you want construction, etc., then your rating, your balance sheet, your track record, and your collateral position determines this. If you are going in for working capital finance facilities, which means I need working capital for inventory, I need working capital for production, etc., then your existing balance sheet, track record, quick ratios, which they call, which is debtors, which is inventory, turnover, how fast the inventory is turning over in your business, how fast the debtors are turning over in your business, what is the doubtful debt which is there in your balance sheet, are there any bad debts in the past, do you have a track record of profitability? All of these factors go into a decision-making process. Benchmarks are available. RBI keeps giving benchmarks on a quarterly basis. These are all available online, but for banks, it's a guidance. Bank's relationship with you is individually dependent on your balance sheet, your track record, your profitability position, your ability to turn inventory into cash as soon as possible, your ability to convert debtors into cash as soon as possible. So you can take a benchmark that your debtors and inventory for working capital, collateral and balance sheet for term loan. That can be the benchmark for your decision making.
Thank you very much, sir, for this
Thank you, sir.
and highly comprehensive presentation. I think all my participants would be very happy with the clarifications you have given to them. Can I ask Mr. Bojraj to come in, please?
Yes. Dhanyavad, Vivek Mallya ji. Really, it was an excellent presentation. And based on your presentation, now our responsibility has been increased. Definitely, we will interact with you in future also. Laghu Udyog Bharati really love to interact with you for policy matters and all other matters. Really.
Dhanyavad ji. Hari Om. Stay safe, stay healthy, all of you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. And for the participants, we have a webinar on Monday. The topic will be Digital Production Hub for MSMEs. This will be presented by Mr. Sunil Bengaluru. Until
Hello,
then,
sir.
goodbye. Yeah, please.
Hello.
Yes.
Can we get the speakers' telephone number? Today's speakers' telephone numbers.
You can write to our Laghu Udyog Bharati info@lubkarnataka.org. If anything is there, we will interact with the speaker and we will let you back.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Thank you, sir, for the wonderful presentation and details shared. Thank you so much.